Welcome to the Neuroperformance Podcast with your host, Andy Murphy. Join us as we delve into the advanced high-performance tactics he uses with his elite clientele across the globe. Let's unlock a whole new world of business potential together.
Hello there, eight-figure thinker. So welcome to the Masterclass Level 2. Be proud, you've made it this far, which means you've already learned some really cool stuff, and I hope you've been playing full out, and I hope you've been enjoying it. Especially the Masterclass, all the bonus sections, the power-up, the hidden hacks. You've leveled up yourself, and you've been tracking yourself. And I really hope that you've been loving the simulator, as I've been getting some really good feedback, and I know there's nothing else out there in the industry like it. And I also know that it's going to create the change that you want. Speaking of change that you want, Level 2 today, we're going to go through some really cool stuff. We're going to go through that automation of the brain. You know, we want to learn or understanding habits and how they affect us and how we change that. And I'm going to get into all of that in a minute. So shall I just start? You know the drill by now. I'm going to share my screen. So we put you right there, share the screen, and I'm down in the corner, so which is perfect. So let's jump into this. Because you know by now, it's you're with me, Andy Murphy. Of course, I don't need to obviously introduce myself to this, but let's go into this because Level 2 is special. It's about state creation and control, okay? Really about designing and building that new brain patterns. And what I love about this is there's a key word there, state creation. This is what I love. It's the biggest thing that I specialize in. It's absolutely what I adore. And it's also how I built my career. Being able to take people in whatever industry, no matter where they're from and whatever level, and being able to design peak states of performance that they can step into a TV set, step into on stage, step into a business meeting, step into make a trade, or whatever else it is. Maybe it's just getting motivated in action or even being physical and training. All of these are different versions of you, and we're going to cover all that today because I really want you to start to understand how these affect your belief systems, your attitude, your motivation, and this neurochemical cocktail that's getting flooded around your brain. So this is what we're going to start with. Level 2 is about why you must discover your automatic behaviors and then know how to rewire them. Now, you know by now what automatic behaviors are. They're unconscious software, unconscious patterns, right? But the thing is, we have to know what they are, because if we don't know what they are and we don't know we're forming habits, then it means we're not going to create the change that we want and we're not going to get the results that we want. And this is why this is so important. In the later sections, we're going to get into the state creation, which I love. So instead of me just talking about it, I'm going to show you. Way easier. So automated beliefs and behaviors. I'm going to talk about the 21 day and 90-day habit lie. And then we're going to look at where your habits and patterns, they started. We're going to talk briefly about epigenetics, and then I'm going to give you a masterclass in states, anchoring, and modeling. All of these things are so important that you understand and so important that you apply. It's probably a course or a section that you want to go over and over and over. And it really is that perspective shift that you're going to need, because when you start to understand your behaviors, what's applying, what's on autopilot, about anchoring, about modeling the right people, about changing that state, everything is going to shift in your life and business. And that's what we want, right? Like it? Happy? Should we carry on? Awesome. Because habits. Let's talk about habits for a bit. It's a little bit of a section to do with habits. And to me, years ago, I didn't have a clue. Habit's a habit, right? But there's so many different variants and so many different aspects to habits, and there's so much controversy, or I'm going to show you all this stuff, right? There's many different perspectives on habits, but why are habits important? Why are they important, right? Well, more than 40% of the actions people perform each day are habits, right? And that's coming from Duke University in 2006. Great study. But look at what that stat just said. 40% of our actions that people perform each day are habits, right? Think about that, right? So if you know that habits are on autopilot, then isn't it about time that you got control of it? Isn't it about time that you understood them and understood truly what's playing in here? Okay, so if you want a richer and more meaningful life, focus on habits. Makes a lot of sense, and it does. And we're going to get into that. Habits are unconscious automatic patterns of how we think, feel, and act about everything in our life. The future, the past, that next task you're going to do, how you feel when you get up, how you feel about that person, how you motivate yourself. All of these things are deeply installed in your unconscious mind, and they all come at different levels and layers as you evolve and get older. Okay, so the thing is, anything we do without conscious thoughts is a habit. It is. Anything we do without conscious thought. So me saying, think about looking at this hand, look at this hand, look at this hand. You were consciously aware of that, right? And then you went, all right, I'll look at that hand. Okay? Well, habits are different because we're not born with habits. Think about this. We're not. We get installed our habits, and the decisions that we make about those experiences create the habits. Okay, so habits are brilliant because healthy habits free up time and energy, right? Did you hear the key word? Healthy habits, right? Good habits. This is why you have great ideas while you're taking a shower or walking. Your actions are automatic. So once we can get out the way of those habits, guess what? That's when we get a new aha moment. And that's what we're going to go into. Because habits really, they are integrated into our nervous system or installed in your unconscious mind. And when we understand this, habits are brilliant because they free up our mind so we can think about something else, right? So when we deepen this world-class software, it means that, for example, you're in a sales call. And if you've been really good and you're really good at sales and you know your product inside and out and everything else, then what are you really doing when you're communicating with a client? You're not thinking about what you're going to say. You're observing the client, reading the client, and seeing where they are on the buying line, see where they are on the progression to the close, right? So when we start to automate habits, whatever they are, right, what it does is allow space for our conscious mind, so then we can make different decisions and we can make rapid decision-making processes and things like that. Cool? Awesome. So a quick little lesson, because the habits, let's talk about the foundation that people get taught, because again, it's something I'm going to show you. I believe it's outdated and habits have changed. Well, I shouldn't say habits have changed, I should say the understanding of habits have changed, because this is the classic one. So we have the 3 R's of habit formation. So the cue or the trigger that starts the habit. For example, traffic lights turn green, right? That activates the next thing. So that's the reminder, okay? Then what people teach, classical behavioral psychology and everywhere else, routine 2 is the action that you take, which is the habit itself, right? So example, you drive through the intersection, right? So the green light's turned on, you drive through the intersection is the routine. Then this is what gets taught is the reward mechanism. And they're saying a habit is, well, let me explain. The benefit you gain from doing the habit is what installs the process or the pattern, right? So you get closer to your destination. So if the reward is positive, okay, think about this, then you'll have a desire to repeat the action the next time the reminder pops up. Eventually, this repetition will form into a new habit. So we get triggered, the routine, if it's positive, then we repeat it because there's a pull to that. Now, do you see the mistake? Not the mistake, but do you see what I'm going to say as the issue here? I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you won't. But there's two updates that I want to give you, because the old habit model to me in 8-figure thinking and what I teach is different, because we have to activate that reward mechanism, right? That reward mechanism. What they're saying is it has to be positive. Well, that's not true, is it? That's not true, right? The reward can be negative or positive. Now, you might be going, no, that's not true, Andy. Why are you going to create a habit that doesn't make you feel good? What did you learn, or what do you know about 6 human needs, right? So it's sections that you're going to be able to go through if you haven't gone through, and it's something I'm not going to push on right now, but I want you to understand we have sabotage patterns, okay? What do you think a pattern is? It's a habit, right? So depending on the root cause, the driver, and the decision, it simply depends if we're going to go into a spiral of negativity, which is going to form a negative habit, or it's going to drive us the opposite way and form a positive habit. Now, that's how people get drug addictions or addictions to something that is sabotaging them. It's because that reward mechanism doesn't have to be positive. It can just be fulfilling certain human needs that make us repeat that pattern. Or it doesn't make us feel good inside, but it creates a certain result. Does that make sense? Can you see why this is starting to become outdated? And this is what everyone teaches. But I looked at this years ago and went, this is wrong, right? Simple. The second thing is there is a 4th step, because to me, there has to be a 4th step, because there's a decision, right? Whether it's conscious or unconscious, there's still a decision, right? In that habit formation. So step 1, we know, step 2, but look at step 4. So to me, this is my new model, okay? And I just want you to understand it, because to me, it's way easier to be able to get control over your habits and create change. So let's look at the start. What they said was a trigger point, right? Well, what are we talking in 8-figure thinker language? Anchoring. Okay, so something gets triggered, an anchor, whether it's good or bad, whatever it is, positive, negative, whatever it is, right? That still gets triggered in your brain. That response or that pattern gets lit up. It gets pressed start onto the program, right? Or the software. So then guess what? Well, we do go into an unconscious strategy, which is the routine. But then we've gone into the 3rd strategy, which is the reward. Now, I've already told you about pain or pleasure, right? Doesn't have to be positive. Far, far from it. That's why most of the world's a little screwed up. But this is the 4th step, the reinforcement. What we're going to learn in 8-figure thinking, what I want you to start being consciously aware of, is what pattern or what decision you're making about the next step, okay? Because we can repeat that pattern if we want that result. But we have to start learning that, is the reward giving us what we want, or is it holding us back in a consumer, or is it pulling us to an investor? Okay, if it's pulling into an investor, that's great. But if we're not consciously aware, step 4, the bottom one, if we're not consciously aware of what pattern is playing, then we can't make a new decision about it. So to me, the 4th step is the reinforcement, and the reinforcement is going to get reinforced. It's going to, that pattern and those neural nets are going to complete. So in step 3, we want to be able to interrupt this thing and work out, is it pain or pleasure? Is it going to lead us towards what we want, or is it going to take us off on a tangent? Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. I hope so. Because it's really about you getting consciously aware of your negative patterns. It really is, because, and it's also, we can do the opposite. We can get aware of our positive patterns for sure, but let's just focus on the negative. And and that sounds really bad. We focus on the negative pattern so we can change it into a positive pattern, okay? So I want you to become aware of these things. And maybe you're reading this right now, listening to me, and you're getting lots of aha moments, right? Because what negative habits are you doing right now? Maybe the negative habit is you're sabotaging yourself by you're sitting on your phone, clicking through stuff, as well as watching this, or you're being distracted by other stuff and you're not being present to this. Well, I'm telling you right now, that's a sabotage pattern, okay? Hey, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a little spinner or a fidget box or a little notepad. That's a conversation for another time. That actually engages our conscious mind, so we have unconscious, no conscious resistance. So we can get straight into the unconscious mind. So those little things are really, really good, by the way. So what are you resisting expanding into? I'll say that question again. What are you resisting expanding into? Right. Is it the next stage of your business? Is it about allowing yourself to let go of the control wheel and hire the right people and put the right people in the right systems? Is it you? What is it? I don't know. But what are you resisting expanding into? Hopefully you got your notepad and pen or whatever you're making notes on and you're tracking this, because the next question I want you to think about is, what are you not letting yourself feel or experience? If you're holding yourself back, if you're around the wrong people, if you're not giving everything you've got, if you're not in alignment with what your vision is or where you want to go, the challenge becomes is that you are starting to hit that ceiling of this box, right? And because you hit the ceiling of this box, you're making this box stronger and thicker. Now, what was level one about? Level one was about breaking this box, right? Starting to step outside of it, making that decision to change. What was level two? What we're going through, right? What the simulator is going to be about for you today. It's about designing what's on the outside of this box, right? So the question is, everything that you want with your business, life, everything, remember the filter, right? It exists. Everything that you want, the money, the success, the happiness, the level of recognition, whatever it is, it all exists. So what are you not letting yourself experience? Think about that, right? Makes sense? Write those notes. Maybe you want to press pause. I don't know. But think about what patterns you're playing or not experiencing or not expanding into around happiness. Do you know that life can be fun? Do you know that business can be fun? Do you know that happiness is something that you can have anytime you want? So what is that sabotage, right? What's that habit that you're used to doing that's not giving you happiness? What about relationships? Think about this, right? If we looked at this, what are you resisting expanding into? Or what are you not letting yourself feel around relationships? Maybe you've got the perfect partner, right? Maybe you haven't. Maybe the perfect partner is so perfect, but you're in a bad habit that you're sabotaging that relationship. Or maybe you can look back on the past one and you sabotage that relationship. This relationship might not even be your partner. It could be a business partner or a business relationship. It's the same thing, okay? So when we are looking at what you're resisting into or what you're not letting yourself feel, understand that that is sabotaging you because of this old habit. What about money, right? What are you resisting expanding into around money? Are you focusing purely on money and you might be sitting there earning $5-10 million a year? Well, guess what? Is the money the focus, but it's attached to a bad habit that sabotages you, or you spend it constantly, or makes you feel bad, and the driver behind it is fear and pain, which makes you pull that money in even more, but it still doesn't make you feel good, right? So that is a habit that we want to shift, right? What about business expansion, taking it to the next level? Maybe that's systems, automating it, hiring the right people. I don't know, right? What about business speed? because your business can expand way, way faster than whatever you think is possible, right? So if we really got back to this and resisting expanding into or not letting yourself feel around business speed and expansion, do you see the habits we want to change? Right. Think about this now. So we're going to jump to the next section as there's lots to go through. But I know you saw this slide a couple of times because I kept popping it up. But this is what I want you to understand as you're trying to break these habits, right? You're trying to recognize them, as you're trying to understand that there is a conscious decision and not all habits have a negative or positive response. Understand that we have to become consciously aware of that reward, and then understand that you're creating resistance around these things. Then this brings us to the next section. And the next section is what I talk about is the 21 and 90 day habit lie, right? And it truly, truly is. It's a lie. Now, does it mean you can't form a new habit in 21 days? I'm not saying that. Does it mean you can't form a new habit in 90 days? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is when someone says to you, it takes 21 days or 90 days to form a new habit, they're not telling the truth, right? And it doesn't mean that they're lying. It means they've been told a misconception. So when you start to understand this and what I'm about to show you, you start to understand that you can build this muscle as fast or as slow as you want. It simply depends on how you're expanding and when you're understanding this new habit formation that I'm trying to show you, okay? So this is where it all started with the 21-day habit, right? I don't know if you know this book. It was made in the 1970s, Psycho-Cybernetics. Really, really cool book. Lots of NLP and brilliant personal development concepts in there. 30 million plus books sold, right? By Maxwell Maltz. Absolutely brilliant guy. I'm going to show you more about those stats in a minute. But I love this quote by him. Man alone can direct his success mechanism by the use of imagination and imagining ability, right? Think about that. What did I show you in level 1? Everything starts in your imagination. Everything, right? And even your new habits, because it's a brilliant book full of brilliant concepts, including the concept of the 21 days to form a new habit, right? So the challenge was either a marketer came along and created it into a new media bias, or it was created through a game of telephone, right? But either way, it's not right, because Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon in the 1950s. He started to noticing a pattern among his patients, right? So after taking surgery, maybe it was a nose job or whatever it was, he found it would take patients about 21 days to adjust to seeing their new face. Okay? Don't know whether you knew this stuff, but this is where it comes from. Also, when a patient had either an arm or a leg amputated, Maltz also noticed his patient would sense a phantom limb for an average of 21 days before again the brain would make the adjustment, right? Now understand this is also, we're in a lot later than 1950, okay? So what I want you to really understand, we've got a lot more results and information on this, and I'm about to show you that stuff. But in 1950, they was showing that it took an average of 21 days before that brain would adjust. Now, this was just the concept or an observation by Maxwell Maltz, right? So this prompted Maltz to start thinking about his own life and the new habits he was making. So he also noticed that it took himself about 21 days to form a new habit, right? Maltz wrote about these experiences and said, these and many other commonly observed phenomena tend to show that it requires I'm going to use the key word, a minimum of 21 days to form an old mental image to dissolve, for an old mental image to dissolve and a new one to gel. Now, what did I say? A minimum of 21 days. Okay, so when he said 21 days. This is the word that got picked up on, right? It was 21 days, but it was a minimum of 21 days. And in 1960, Maltz published, along with other thoughts on behavioral change in a book, Psycho-Cybernetics, and this really influenced all the superstars over the years, including Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, like a very long, big game of telephone. People forgot that he said a minimum of 21 days, and the media shortened it to, it takes 21 days to form a new habit. Okay? Again, whether that's right, that's wrong, I'm just showing you the background. Okay? So this is a modern study, and this is what I want to show you, by Dr. Philippa Lely, who's a researcher associated in health psychology. And Philippa Lely, as I say, the London University published a study in the European Journal of Social Psychology, researched how long to form a new habit, okay? This is updated information showing deeper results, and this is really, really cool stuff I'm about to show you. In 2009, a new study was taken on, and it was now accepted, okay? So I also did a bit of research on Philippa Lely, and she's real. There's an email address, even the address where she works, and the university that she's at, right? So that's actually the paper. So when people argue this point, or, you know, I see all this media bias out there, meaning that all of these programs, 21 days to form a new habit, 21 days to form a new habit. Years ago, I fell into that understanding too, because I believed them. But when doing my own research, again, things change. So this was the modern study, and this was the actual paper that was created. But what the study was really something really cool. It was 96, they took 96 people over 6 weeks, and each person chose different habit they want to form. Simple stuff, like running, drinking more water. Speaking of drinking more water, let's have a little drink. So 96 people over 6 weeks, okay? So what happened was, Philippa Lely's study showed it took between, listen to this, 18 to 254 days to form a new habit. That's a little different to 90 days or 21 days, right? 18 to 254 days to form a new habit. Very, very different, right? So what that means is the results, the average amount of time was 66 days to form a new habit, right? So 66 days to form a new habit is not 90 days, it's not 21 days, it's not 254 days. Understand, it's the average is 66 days. And I'm going to show you why that's relevant to you in a moment, right? And why you might be sabotaging yourself through so many ways. And the reason I'm showing you this, as an 8-figure thinker, we have to take responsibility for what's being processed or what habits we're forming in our head. But we also have to have the relevant information, because what did I say about the personal development industry? That's right, they regurgitate the same crap. The same, not saying it's all crap, but there's a lot of it's crap, and it's not, there's no true wisdom behind it or experience, right? So if it takes 66 days to form a new habit, I'm going to show you in a couple of slides why this is so important for you to understand. And it's going to give you a break. It's going to allow you to be kind on yourself, and I'll show you why. But the thing about this is it also means it got installed as part of your DNA, right? Because here's a concept around epigenetics.
That's all for this episode of the Neuro-Performance Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to stay connected, rate, review, and visit andymurphy.online to take the next step towards unlocking your pure potential. See you next time.